Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, today with the Walking HoTA build, another Barbarian build that I think is going to do a really good job taking you all the way from level 1, all the way through the campaign, through the first capstone dungeon, through World Tier 3, through that second capstone dungeon, and we have all of the aspects planned out here for you. They all come from the codex, so there's no RNG necessary at all. We also have the full skill tree planned. We have a full Paragon tree that is set up so that you're about the point where you're probably going to be tackling that second capstone. And there's no glyphs being used here at all, so you don't have to worry about getting that right glyph in your particular build. This build is going to be incredibly strong as you're going into World Tier 4. And there's just so much power on the Paragon board as well. Maybe almost a little too much for HoTA, just from rare nodes, that you're going to feel very, very strong. And I'm very confident this is going to be a good build. If you want some sort of cheat sheet to kind of look along with as you're like leveling and playing the build, all of this is going to be over here on the Mobalytics website, just like this. This is my bleed build. I have all of the different things, all of the different skills, recommended stat priorities, a leveling rundown, and it's just going to be very, very helpful. Go check them out. They're even going to have an overlay that will just work in the game, so you can just follow right along without having to tab out, which I think is really great. They do some good stuff in League of Legends, and they're bringing that expertise to Diablo 4. So starting off right away, let's talk about the most important aspects in this particular build. And that's going to be the aspect of Ancestral Force. This basically takes Hammer of the Ancients, or HoTA, from being a tiny little hit to being something that pulses out and hits more enemies. And this just makes it so that you hit in front of you, and then it pulses out and deals damage. Now you want this to basically be as high a roll as possible, so you're going to want to put this either on your amulet or your two-handed slashing weapon, because you generally just don't want to replace these. But you'll notice that we don't put anything ever on our two-handed bludgeoning weapon, and this is because as we're leveling up, our two-handed bludgeoning weapon is really going to kind of dictate how much damage we're dealing, because your HoTA always uses your two-handed bludgeoning. So you don't really want to like muddy the waters by having a legendary power that's giving you more damage on your weapon, so that when you drop a new higher item level, higher DPS weapon, you kind of have to do the mental math. Is it worth it dropping the legendary power for the increased item power? Just keep your weapon like blue or rare, and it'll be really, really easy for you just to drop a new upgrade, go to the blacksmith, level it up real fast, and just keep hammering enemies, everything you see basically. So yeah, aspect of Ancestral Force, put this on your amulet or your two-handed slashing if you find one that's like going to be something you can stick with for a while. Aspect of Berserk Ripping is also really good. You can put that on your amulet or your two-handed slashing. Edgemaster's aspect, this makes it so that you're going to do increased damage based off how much resources you have. And HoTA is really motivated to attack when they have as much resources as possible, so this kind of goes nicely together. Then aspect of the Expectant gives you basically increased core skill damage for every time you have basic attacked before that core skill, which is just a nice little extra. I also threw on Earth Striker's aspect. I don't necessarily think that this one's all that amazing, because apparently like Thorns can steal this proc right now, but it's something that you can kind of slap on and do a little bit more damage. For Fury generation, because our build is basically going to be limited by how much Fury you can generate and how fast you can attack. And so generating Fury is incredibly important, especially while leveling. So we're going to be taking aspect of Echoing Fury. This makes it so that your two shout skills are also going to generate Fury for you over time, which is just free Fury. We're eventually going to be taking Walking Arsenal key passive. So this aspect of the Relentless Arms Master also increases the Fury generation when all of the bonuses are active, which is very strong as well. You can also go and get another aspect here called Umbral, aspect of the Umbral. This gives you one primary resource whenever you crowd control an enemy, which I don't think is all that impressive compared to Relentless Arms Master, especially, but you will be applying crowd control to basically everything you hit, so it's not a terrible option either. Now, going through the rest of them, Anemia is kind of nice because you can basically stun enemies that are bleeding, which is everything. Tempering Blows will give you some Fortify. Aspect of Disobedience is really great for armor. And then Ghostwalker's aspect is really insane with the Unstoppable that you get from Rallying Cry, allowing you to basically have a 10-second speed boost with this aspect, which is really good. For gems, we're going to be taking emerald for critical strike damage to vulnerable, because we're going to make enemies vulnerable. We're going to go ruby or sapphire in the body armor. And then for jewelry, just slam in skulls. I think while leveling that this is definitely the way to go. For technique, we're going two-handed sword. We'll automatically be benefiting from the two-handed mace when we're hitting with HoTA, but the two-handed sword is really nice because this allows us to basically apply bleeding to everything we do direct damage to, which is important for activating things like against enemies that are bleeding or enemies that are crowd controlled and things like that. It's just really nice. If you have some other way to apply bleeding, like you're really getting that berserk ripping going all the time, you can switch over to two-handed axe. And this will give you vulnerable or increased damage to vulnerable enemies and increase critical strike chance against them as well, which is both very, very strong. Let's just hop right into the leveling tree then. And so what I'm going to recommend here, just starting off right away for every single leveling barbarian build, is lunging strike. If you're playing a barbarian build and they're recommending anything but lunging strike for leveling, kind of a little bit suspect, because lunging strike is just that strong. Yes, you could maybe make a play for flay or frenzy. These might help you like fight a little bit faster, but realistically, lunging strike is going to let you move so much faster because it's basically like an instant teleport halfway across the screen. It's just really ridiculous right now. And I don't understand how any of these other basic skills can live up to this. It's just good. And it comes with a little heal as well, which is pretty nice. And then from that point, we're going to go here and we're going to take Hammer of the Ancients, Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients, and Furious Hammer of the Ancients. And so Hammer of the Ancients, basically you slam your hammer down. It does 50% of your like weapon damage in a concentrated area. And this costs 35 Fury. Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients makes it so you gain a multiplicative 3% more Fury for 5 seconds for each enemy damaged by the Hammer of the Ancients, stacking up to 10 times. And so you can basically make it so you're getting 30% more Fury after hitting a huge group of enemies, which helps you kind of like regenerate more so you can hammer a second time. And the last one here, Furious Hammer of the Ancients, deals 1% like multiplicative more damage for each point of Fury you have when you use it. So you start off with a maximum of 100 Fury, you probably get almost up to like 180 or something like that, maybe even 200 in really late game. And so this is a gigantic multiplier, but you do have to be at high Fury. So it'd be kind of common to go and slam, generate, slam again. And this is going to give you a lot of damage. It's basically, if you cast this at full Fury at 100%, at 100 Fury, you're doubling the amount of damage the Hammer of the Ancients would be doing. And then the next thing you're going to do is put another point into Hammer of the Ancients, because that just makes it so it does more damage. Next, I'm going to take a point in Rallying Cry and Enhanced Rallying Cry. The reason for this is because eventually you're going to be getting that Ghost Walker's aspect. Give me a little movement speed, and this is a good time to pick that up. And then I'm also going to recommend Tactical Rallying Cry. Tactical Rallying Cry basically adds on to what Rallying Cry already does, which is increases your movement speed, increases your resource generation, and gives you Unstoppable. Now it also gives you just flat Fury and additional resource generation. So you can go into a fight with like pretty high Fury, you can Rallying Cry, HoTA, and then keep generating, and your generation is massive at this point because you have big Rallying Cry regeneration and you have Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients regeneration, which is really good. Next, we're going to put 2 more points into Hammer of the Ancients, and this will unlock this next part of the tree down here. We're going to go and take Warcry for more damage and Enhanced Warcry, which gives us Berserking for a short time, which is even more damage and movement speed. Go back up here, and we're going to take the last point in Hammer of the Ancients, which now makes it so it does 70% of damage in area, which gets doubled obviously if you're using it at 100 Fury. This is going to be very solid for you indeed. Next up, we're going down here to Booming Voice. This is going to increase the duration of your shouts, which is nice, but most importantly is this next node here, which is Raid Leader. Raid Leader is absolutely bonkers as a barbarian, and if you're playing a barbarian that's taking shouts, especially if you're playing with friends, you really want to take this. I know it says So it says shouts also heal allies for 1% of their maximum life per second. This scales up to 3%. Now, what counts as an ally is basically any player that is near you that is not PvP hostile to you. So that includes yourself, includes people in your party, random people running by, people at the world boss, all sorts of stuff like that. So we're going to start picking this up. It's a pretty high priority node. In fact, I think all 3 of these nodes are pretty important for late game. So we go and we're going to put 1 point here into raid leader. And this unlocks the section down here. We're going to immediately take hamstring. Hamstring makes your bleeds now slow enemies, which just activates all of the wind crowd controlled modifiers on like all your gear and stuff, which is very, very strong. And then after that, we're going to walk across the street here and pick up Deathblow. And Deathblow basically is a nice little hit that is kind of similar to hitting a HoTA, but it doesn't cost you any resources. And if you kill an enemy with it, its cooldown is reset. We're going to go and get Deathblow, deals 100% increased damage to bosses, and Warrior's Deathblow, which makes it so that if it hits at least one enemy, you get berserking for 3 seconds. And this can really kind of help your clear speed early on because it doesn't cost you any fury. It allows you just to basically swing and murderize things for free. And it's very, very fun and very enjoyable. I like it quite a bit. Next, we're going to put 2 more points into Raid Leader, and then we are going to put 1 point here into Pit Fighter. This is going to give us a little bit more close damage, a little bit damage reduction from distance, and we're going to be going up even more here. But this just unlocked our ultimate, which is Iron Maelstom. Iron Maelstom is really nice. It basically uses all of your weapons, like you hit it 1 time and it will smack your 2-handed bludgeoning in front of you, stuns enemies, and then you can either just hold the button down or you can keep pressing it and it will slash with your 2-handed slashing weapon, causing big bleeding damage to like the entire screen. And then your two dual wielding weapons will spin around, do a ton of damage. It has really high crit chance, and most importantly, whenever you swap weapons, it reduces the cooldown of Iron Maelstrom's cooldown by 1 second. This allows us to constantly lower down the cooldown of Iron Maelstrom by just assigning different weapons to different skills. And so how do you do that? Well, what we're going to do is you press S on PC. I'm not sure what it is on console. I don't play on console. Maybe someone could tell us in the comments below. But this pulls up a little skill panel above your skills, and you can hover over the skills on your bar and then middle mouse click them, and it will rotate through what weapons they can be assigned to. So automatically it's set up to be automatic. It will just pick whatever your highest DPS weapon is, and we're going to go and we're going to assign 2-handed slashing to Deathblow, and then our dual wielding weapon to lunging strike. And that allows us to use all 3 weapons, with HoTA obviously being your 2-handed bludgeoning, and that's going to just make your Iron Maelstrom ultimate here come up even faster, and it's also going to set us up here for the future. And after that, we're going to come up here, we're going to grab No Mercy. This gives us a little bit of crit chance against enemies that are immobilized, stunned, or slowed, so this bleed's coming in very handy. And then we're going to max out Expose Vulnerability here. Expose Vulnerability is really nice because it's going to allow us to make Deathblow apply vulnerable here, which is very, very solid. It doesn't make Deathblow apply vulnerable. It makes it so that when you hit Deathblow, your next HoTA is going to apply vulnerability, even like the little shockwave that comes out of it, which is very, very strong. And you know, we're just going to do more damage in general to enemies that are vulnerable as a baseline, but as it scales up, your vulnerable damage on weapons becomes very important, and this just allows you to do a lot of damage. Now, if you're playing with like a Bone Necromancer or something like that where you're leveling up, maybe you don't need to like rush this so much, but if you're not, you don't have a good way of flying vulnerable, this is a pretty decent way. Next, we're going to come down here. We're going to get Tempered Fury for increasing your maximum fury, which is kind of nice for HoTA. And then we're going to get Furious Impulse. And we're actually going to put 2 points in here. And that is basically going to make it so that every time you swap weapons, you gain 4 fury. So you just HoTa'd and you use Lunging Strike, gain an extra 4 fury. You then use Deathblow, gain an extra 4 fury. Then you HoTA, gain fury. It's just really overall nice. And then we get our key passive. You can only take 1 of these. Unconstrained's kind of a little bit nice for increasing your berserk damage. Unbridled Rage is really great for endgame. It just doubles the cost of your core skill, but increases the damage by a lot. This is something that once we actually have our Fury really locked down and doing well, we probably want to consider taking. And Gushing Wounds really isn't good for us because we're not really super critting right now with Bleed. This isn't something that's probably going to help us all that much, but Walking Arsenal is basically just free damage for us. Every time you switch or do damage with a different weapon type, you're going to get 10% damage increase. So if you hit with Lunging Strike and your dual wielding weapons, you get 10% more damage. If you hit with HoTA, you get a 10% more damage multiplier. If you hit with your two-handed slashing with Deathblow, you're going to get another 10% damage multiplier. And these can all basically be up at the same time. And when all three are up, you're also going to get an additional 15% more damage multiplier. So it's like 56% more damage, which is just absolutely ludicrous. So much damage. And it doesn't have the big negative of Unbridled Rage. And having increased Fury cost on HoTA is kind of a bad thing, especially early on if you can't recover it. Because if your HoTA now costs 70 Fury, that's 70% more multiplier that you just burned off your character for Furious Hammer of the Ancients. So until you can really easily recover all of your Fury, you don't want to swap over to that. And then next, once you're done with that, I recommend just finishing out Furious Impulse. Next, we're going to go over here to Wallop. This makes it so that your skills using bludgeoning weapons deal 15% increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. And then we're going to go up here. We're going to get 2 more ranks of Pit Fighter for increased damage, 2 more ranks of No Mercy to give us more crit strike chance, and then we are going to come back here and get 2 more points of Tempered Fury. You can kind of see these as 3% more multipliers for Hammer of the Ancients, because if you cap out your Fury, obviously you're just going to have more multiplier for the Furious Hammer of the Ancients. And then we are going to go back up here to Warcry and take Mighty Warcry. This is going to give us basically a free Fortify just for using Warcry. Fortify is a good defensive mechanic. Check out my Diablo University video about Fortify if you don't know how it works. And then we're going to take Thick Skin followed by Counter Offensive. This makes it so that we get another more multiplier whenever our Fortify value is above 50% of our maximum life, which is very good for keeping us alive, but also very good for giving us more damage. Go back up here, finish up Booming Yell, increase those shout durations a little bit more. Guttural Yell also makes it so that your shout skills make enemies near them do less damage, which is a good thing. And then we can finish off here with Imposing Presence, giving us more life, and Martial Vigor, giving us a little bit more damage reduction against elites. Now, I'm realizing here that I missed one point, and it'll be updated on the sheet, but you could probably put point into Heavy-Handed is very good as your crit gets higher. You could also go and put a point up here into Battle Lunging Strike, and either of these would probably be fine. If you're needing more defenses, though, you could potentially switch things up as well with some defensive stance or switching around some of the skills. I don't really know where I missed the point here. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the leveling part of the build. I think that once you get into the Paragon, things really start to go crazy, because this particular build has some insane Paragon nodes in the Warbringer tree. Warbringer basically has a whole bunch of Fury related nodes, which are very useful. So over here we get 8 max Fury, another 8 max Fury, 8 max Fury, and another 16 more max Fury. That is quite a bit of damage. And then over here we're going to be getting another 40 more max Fury and some Fury on kill. And over here on Warbringer itself, every time you spend Fury, 75 of it, you're going to get more Fortify, which isn't really all that amazing. However, you're basically in the neighborhood anyways. You're already spending a lot of Fury. Might as well pick it up. These are kind of my recommendations for this. Glyphs I think that are really good are probably the Exploit glyph. It's going to give you a lot of vulnerable damage, and you can just put that in your board here. I believe you can probably fit it in here pretty nicely, or up here as well. Thank you much, guys, for checking out the build. Check out the updated cheat sheet here on MOBA, and we'll check you again next time in Sanctuary. I'm pushing to level 100 pretty quick with probably either like a Rend or a HoTA, or maybe like a mix between the two type of build, depending on kind of some things that we need for our group. I'll be leveling with Gassy TV and Pause as we push in softcore to level 100 as fast as possible. So if you're interested in checking out some gameplay, come hang out the stream. We'll see you soon.